Welcome to Carlie Lex. I don't even know why she's laughing like that. We're here. You're here. What's up?
How you doing?
You talking to me? You talking to them?
I'm talking to you.
I'm cool. I'm always cool. Nothing fresh going on. I need to come up with a better answer when people ask, like, how you doing? Because, I don't know, I just don't really be having shit to say.
Yeah. It's an interesting.
And I try to not say busy because that's stupid.
I feel like a lot of people say busy.
Yeah, and it's just like, why is that important? Yeah, I need a better answer for that. I'll think of it.
It's important because we live in a society that puts a lot of effort and stock into what you're doing and how you should always be doing something. And that's a lot of people contrive their worth from that. So I think that's why. But I try not to. When I answer one, I try to be more honest and not like if you ask someone like, how you doing? Well, actually, no, I'm having a really terrible day. Not.
Yeah, but I feel like more often than not, you reply to that with a like, not that it's negative, but it's always like a, oh, like, man, it's a lot. You know, like it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's always that. So I don't know if that's really good too, if that's what's real and just how you're feeling, or if that's a sign that we should be reframing how we're feeling about what we're doing.
About things. Yeah. And I actually have no answers. So here we are.
Once again. But today we're here to talk about people pleasing, which is something I learned more about in the last maybe year or so, and how it kind of goes together with other things like codependence and self-worth and all of that stuff, right?
I'm going to need you to get out my bag, but continue.
But, people pleasing is just something interesting because I feel like a lot of people grow up being groomed to, help others and be there for other people. Like that's kind of, I would think, normal, like societal, norms that we learn as we grow up. But what actually, when we talk about people pleasing, what does that mean to you? Or when you hear that term?
Like when I hear that, I just think of a person who's doing something to appease other people, like shucking and jiving to make people happy. That's exactly what I think of.
Yeah, when I think about people pleasing, I think about people going out of their way to like help you, and like I didn't ask you for that, or like you didn't have to do all that.
Or, and part of me is like, because I'm a helper, so not because they're going out of the way, but also like just in what they're doing, like someone who kind of is a chameleon depending on who they're around, just to appease whatever group they might be with. Like you're not actually yourself. You're whoever you think other people want you to be.
Yep. That's good. So I feel like there's obviously something wrong about that. Which is if you're more focused on, well, it is that you're more focused on other people, more focused on what other people are thinking instead of what you want or who you are or what you care about. But why would somebody do that? Why would you care to assess other people and then think this is what I should do?
I mean, a lot of people live for other people's acceptance and other people's validation of their worth and of who they are and that they're of value and of their love. And not to put it all on them. I mean, some of it for sure, but also like I think society especially sets up a lot of women for that, especially when it comes to the affections of a partner. And so I think a lot of people get lost in that. They get lost in the sauce of trying to be cool or trying to be acceptable or trying to be like the person, that they don't ever stop to actually think about who they are, what they want, what they need, how they want to show up for themselves. It's always, well, how can I help other people? I think it's also a lot harder to do that for yourself and to take the time and the introspection and self-awareness to do those things for yourself than it is like if I know that I'm supposed to be, the dependable friend, if I'm always a dependable friend, they're, always going to call me for things, then it's easy to get your worth from that.
Where do you see yourself as a people pleaser now, if you do?
I don't anymore, which is like beautiful because I for sure used to be that person.
In what types of circumstance?
My family. So I used to be codependent and like do a lot of things like for like my mom and in an unhealthy way, not like showing up for your parents in a healthy way, but like in a very unhealthy way. Like I was kind of like the parent like in our relationship. And so Like a lot of people in my family would look to me for those things. And I did that because I thought that's what I had to do to please them. It wasn't an intentional. What's funny is it was never an intentional, like, I'm doing this just to please you. But those were my expectations, their expectations of me. And I felt like I always had to meet them. And now I'm like, I actually don't have to be who y'all want me to be. I'm myself.
But did they really want you to be that, or were you making that up?
No, they wanted me to be that.
Okay. So a lot of times people pleasing I see is trying to get, we talked about getting approval, but to say it a different way, like getting other people to like you or wanting other people to like you, which may make you be the person who always like, yes, I'll do that. Or, you know, what do you need? Or I got you. Or, you know, do you need anything?
Even if you
Or
ain't
I'm on
got
the way. Yeah. Man, I had some stories from that actually. Like I was bad with that. And like, you just always feel like you have to be there. But what's wrong with that though? Like if you're helping somebody else and you're there for somebody, you're being dependable for that other person. Why is that a negative thing?
I don't think the act in and of itself is a negative thing. I think that it kind of comes down to intention. Like, I'm doing this so you will love me. I'm doing this so you will accept me. I'm doing this so you will validate me and my worth. I'm doing this like, so I think that's a good checkpoint. The second one is, how am I going to give you $20 if all I have in my bank account is 19? And now I'm not going to eat for a week because I gave you $20, which I'm a giver and I like to give to people. And so I even have to kind of check myself like, girl, why are you trying to give $10? You don't have any in your bank account. Like, what are you doing?
I've done that before though.
Me too. I definitely have. And probably more recently than I like to admit.
That was like a couple years ago. But I remember I got a text, was like, can you send me $100? And I did not even have $100. I was like, and I didn't say anything, but it was so funny how quickly I knew who to hit to be like, hey, can I borrow however much I need it and I'll give it back to you the next day or something like that. And I just cashed out them, like, no questions. I didn't say anything because I know this was a person, like, if they asked for something, they probably needed it. And they didn't need a whole lot of questions, you know. So I was like, here, like, I trust the person. And then this fool was like, you know, I was at dinner with some coworkers and we were just talking about, like, the friends that we have that, you know, if you ask them for some money, would they send it to you? And I was, in my head, I was like, bitch, like, I actually need that money. Like, I actually have nothing now. So I was like, aha. I was like, aha. So you gonna send that back? Cause
yeah. So now that I proved your point,
he was like, wow, and he was perpetrating. I was like, I was trying to help you out, but I kind of need that back. Like that wasn't even my money. Like I borrowed it from somebody to like help you. So I'm like, bitch, like I don't got time for fucking games. Like give me my money back. But then I was like, why'd I care? You know what I mean? I should have. Because I would have too much pride to be like, I can't help you. I figured out a way to figure it out. But I'm like, yeah, where do I be doing this when I don't have no bread? Like, why am I not like working that hard for myself to like figure shit out sometimes?
I feel like it's always easier for other people to make shit happen.
I was like, okay.
No, you need a car and you need $100. You need a trench coat. Bad, I got you. I'll be there in 2 hours. What?
I didn't need to do all that. But people pleasing, if you're people pleasing, we'll talk about like the signs of that. But I feel like people pleasing is a sign of other things. Typically, one of the biggest ones is not being okay with yourself or feeling like you need to be needed by other people. And I'm kind of like that, even with like my work. Sometimes like I like being that friend who's like, you know, I'm helping people get their stuff together. Even though I have a million things I need to get together too. But, you know, I like that. And it's like a place where you feel like you get a lot of worth from helping. When it comes to like relationship type stuff, it would be maybe you're people pleasing because you like you want to be their maid. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we've all had a time where we're like in that stupid ass maid phase, and you're doing the most, and like nobody asked you to do all that, right? But you're trying to do things to get them to be like, wow, I got to keep her around. Like she's taking care of me.
Or even or like not doing things so that they'll keep you around. Like Kiara always says, like, don't be the cool girl. Like, don't act like things don't bother you if they really do bother you. Like, have those conversations. But it's like, well, what are you scared of? Like, if you actually ask for what you need or say something bothers you or do that they're not going to pick you. Okay, well, why are you trying to be a pick-me? Like,
right, basically. Basically, being a pick-me is kind of being a people pleaser, too. Are there any other things that could be like a sign of something bigger that you could think of?
I mean, any time that you're looking for love, validation, worth that's outside of yourself, I think that's an issue. and just something that has to be explored. And I feel like a lot of times that's what it is. Like if you're looking for acceptance into like this group of people, like let's say coworkers or something like that, and they always go out and drink, but you don't even like drinking, but you do it because you know they like to do it. It's like, well, why?
What's the difference between feeling good because you made somebody else feel good versus like you making yourself feel good?
What do you mean?
It's kind of not really the same. Or like the first thing I think that I would tend to do if I'm not feeling good is maybe like when you do something for somebody else, it just makes you feel better. And I think it's easier than if I like go do something for myself. Then it's like, okay.
Yeah. But I mean, even to figure out, so if you know that, okay, well, I'll change it. So if I know that you love like chocolate chip cookies and I'm like, you know, Lex was having a bad day, I'm gonna make Lex some chocolate chip cookies. I know that about you. It's easy for me to do that. I think sometimes, most of the time, I would even bet that people don't know what those things are for themselves because they haven't taken time to figure out what that is, or they're avoiding it, right? So instead of like me facing my bad day, I'm like, oh, let me just make Lex feel better. So then I feel some type of value, like I did something with my time instead of actually facing whatever issue I was trying to deal with on my side.
Would that be an example of people pleasing?
I think that's more of avoidance.
No, for you, if you're like, man, this person seems like they're having a bad day, I'm going to do something for them.
I don't think so, but I think that it could be if I was doing it like to try to like be one of your closer friends, like to try to
like
make
if you have a
think,
motive to it.
Yeah, like if I was like, oh man, she be hanging out with Dom all the time. I haven't been to tea time. Like maybe if I give her cookies, she'll invite me to tea time.
Away. We do it every day, but you live a damn hour away.
And that's fine. I'm cool with that. But like if it wasn't just to bake you cookies, like if my intention wasn't just to try to help your day get better, because I love doing stuff for people, but I really do have to check myself. Like, am I being codependent? Am I trying to solve all your problems? Am I avoiding my own shit? Am I just trying to get you to love me more? Like you really have to check in sometimes when you're doing a lot for other people.
Yeah. So then what does that look like then? What are some signs maybe that you are a people pleaser?
Like if, okay, so let's say we're having a group discussion and all y'all are in consensus about something and I'm like, yeah, I feel like that too. But I don't feel like that. And I just don't want to have that conversation and I just want to be accepted. So like, let me just not say how I actually feel about things and or not speak my mind because it might rock the boat, because it might get uncomfortable, because you might look at me differently. Like if I'm trying to control how you see me and does that make sense?
Yeah. Like if you're just going along with it, if you're being a yes man,
those are the worst.
Then you just care about being in the group maybe more than you care about actually like whatever y'all are talking about.
And I would challenge you if you feel like because we've all done it at some point in our lives, but I challenge you if you catch yourself doing it, like why? And then also to look at, well, maybe a diverse opinion or a diverse perspective could actually add more value to the conversation than just the same stuff.
Yeah, I definitely don't tend to just agree just to agree, but then there's times, of course, where it's like, the outcome isn't as important. So I don't, it's like whatever y'all want to do. But if something's a bad idea, like I don't have no problem speaking up. Another thing, that's a sign of being a people pleaser, is if you always feel like you're burdened by what you have to do, kind of like what we just talked about. Like every time somebody asks you about work, your first thoughts are like, or you're kind of down, then that actually could be a sign that you're a people pleaser, because maybe you're living a life that you're not actually that into or as into as you think. And that's kind of like a tough pill to swallow when you think about how much we focus on our work. But if it's like, I think sometimes it could be that, hey, we have our own business and we like doing this, but do you really, like, maybe it really isn't for you, or maybe what you're doing really does still need to shift if you're not enjoying it. And maybe you can't pinpoint like somebody who is looking at you and wants you to do this, but it may still be some pressure you're just putting on yourself because of like, you want to keep up with I'm doing this and this is what I said I like to do.
Yeah.
But maybe you don't really.
And I would also say vice versa. Like if you have this job in whatever field, for me, it was engineering. And it was like, I felt like I had to do this because this is what was expected of me.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't get a lot of joy from it. But also like if you're defensive, if I'm like, Lex, why are you an entrepreneur? Because it was this, da-da-da. Like if you feel the need to kind of be defensive about things, I think that's also an indicator. Another one is if you already said a yes man. But if you don't say no, to people. Like if you're like, hey, you know, do you want to go to movies tonight? Knowing damn well I got all these projects. I don't even like the movie she asking me to go see. I'm doing all these things. And I saw her today, why am I saying yes to something when it doesn't fit anything else that I'm doing? Or if there was something, but I arranged my whole entire schedule. Like, you're not busy tonight? Nah, girl, I'm free. Let's go do this thing. But I have a bunch of shit to do.
That's a big one.
It's like, why?
So 2 things to that then. The first thought I had was the things you have difficulty saying no to can tell you a lot about where you place your self-worth. Because, for example, the one you gave about, oh, girl, you want to go to the movies? That's an easy no. Like, I am good. I'm good. It's after 6? No. But if somebody asks, like, hey, you want to help co-produce my film? Like with my friend Brianna. I'm like, yeah, girl. Like, I want to do it. No, and I can't. Like, but that's me. That shows me places where I'm like, man, maybe I should have said no. But I didn't because I like feeling needed and work shit. Like, that's my thing, right? So those types of things are maybe harder for me. So that tells you more about where you're tied up, because certain things I'm not. Like on social type stuff, I don't feel like I'm missing a thing if I never go out of my house. So that's an interesting thought. And then that second part of it, that's a huge determinant, I believe, of being a people pleaser if you are rearranging your schedule for stuff. And that's what a lot of issues, that's a huge red flag, like with relationships especially. Man, I remember I used to like turn my ringer way up and when I went to sleep just in case they call, like I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna like talk to them. And it's like, for what? Like, that's stupid. That's rearranging like my work so I can go on a trip or do these things or do this or that. Help them with the thing. Catch yourself when you do that, because it's a sign that you're putting other people before you. And going back to like what people pleasing means, that's the biggest part of it, is like you're putting other things before yourself where you should be first.
Exactly. Like, and why is this person on a pedestal? We've talked about it before about having like that special person in your life. Like, it just means more. It hits a little different whenever they say things. And so I think that that's an easier area to notice when you're people pleasing, and because it's just like the most obvious place for that to show up.
And then, yeah, you're putting them on a pedestal, and then you're also setting up expectations for kind of needing something that you may or may not get. And so I am a proponent of making sure your investment matches and that you're never going out of your way to the point where you're going to feel resent for another person, because quite frankly, you really expect them to do something in return. So really checking yourself on that. That's one of the hugest things that have changed for me, to where I don't really deal with it as much, or I haven't as much lately, or, you know, I recognize that quickly and it's not at all in the same level as it was before.
Oh my God. And being on the other side of that, I'm like, you upset with me? I ain't even ask you to do all them things.
Yeah. And yeah, you get mad then when it's like, but you ain't my girl though. And it's like, that's true. Like, if nobody asked you to do all these things and you're complaining, like the moment you complain about somebody taking you for granted is the moment you should take a step back and recognize that you need to lower your investment. You've put yourself in a place to be taken for granted. You've put yourself in a place where you're people pleasing, where nobody asked you to. So that's on you. So you kind of got to take responsibility in those cases and dial it back. You got to give people space to meet you in the middle. Otherwise, how can they?
That's some snaps on that. That's some life lessons and experience. Y'all better listen to Lex.
That's real experiences.
Y'all better listen to Lex. Because I ain't too far removed from that. I've been there too.
Yeah.
All in my feelings. But that's kind of my fault. Kind of is actually 100%. But
yeah, you're in your feelings because we think that our efforts will have an outcome, but when it comes to other people, your efforts literally have nothing to do with the outcome. It literally, they have to be deciding to be there, to do whatever, to meet you. There's nothing you can do. And we've seen that all the time where you see on Twitter, like every once in a while, people like, I could complain, like, I did this, I did that, I did this, and he's still blah, blah, blah. And it's like, regardless. And then there's people like, and I have 8 kids, I don't go to work, I don't do whatever, and I have a guy who wants to do everything for me, because it's not about your efforts, really. Not that you shouldn't be, help being a part of something together and taking care of something, but it literally just is determined on where that other person is. So to wrap yourself up in that is so much unnecessary stress. Like,
and I think it comes down to 2 things. One is intention. If you're doing something just to get something, like you should probably check yourself, because you're going to wreck yourself sooner than later, whenever that's the thing, especially when it comes to love, because love isn't like, I love you, so you do this. And it's not that. And so that's a communication thing. Like I forgot my other point. It was great though. Just know that it was phenomenal.
But hopping also back out of the how you know you're a people pleaser. Another thing is thinking about from the other side. Have you ever experienced somebody being a people pleaser for/around you?
I have, but real quick, so I remember my other point. Okay. Nobody owes you a damn thing. Then that's it. And you don't owe people a damn thing either. And it kind of like that is so refreshing and freeing once you kind of realize that. It's like, oh man, I feel like I have to do this because I don't owe them anything.
When you take care of yourself and like you literally stop doing that stuff and you put all the energy towards yourself. We do that once you're like broke up, right? And all that. And then you're like, oh, let me be a bad bitch and like turn up. But it's like, why weren't you doing that? And when you start doing that, you're back to being more attractive because you're taking care of yourself. Nobody wants to be with somebody where it feels like, well, I'm responsible for their happiness. And that's too much pressure and there's too much stress on that other person. And then you've lost what they liked and was attracted to in you in the first place because you was your own person.
And because you're trying to mold to whatever you think that they want and what they need you to be instead of just being who you are, which is what sparked the initial.
Right. And so what I was asking from that is that I've had people who done that to me before too. Like, and those people I tend to, I don't know, I'm not attracted to being around as much. If I'm around somebody and they ask me my favorite song and then 10 minutes later when we get in the car, they play that song. To me, that's kind of like, yeah, all right. Like, I'm not learning about the other person because everything they do is like reflecting
for you.
The same thing that I'm saying, or like they're trying to like please me or make this an appropriate environment for me. And I'm like, all right, I could do this at home. Like,
I could do this by myself.
Yeah, and I think maybe the more centered you are and the less of a people pleaser you are, the less attractive that is for other people to do stuff too. Not saying that other people can't do things for you, take care of you, whatever, because that's also a problem too, and you can't let people do anything for you. But you know when they're trying to be like, oh, is she watching? Is she looking? Is she paying attention? Does she like this? Does she not like this? And it's like, no, I don't want you to be that kind of person around me.
Yeah, I just want to get to know you. I had an ex that literally a conversation that we had about like the future and like things that we wanted to do. And he had asked me and I like told him, oh, I want to do these things after I graduate. I was like all excited. And I was like, what about you? He's like, I'll just do whatever to support you. And I was like,
that's a whack answer.
You gonna do what? And I started asking questions. So
yeah.
Like, so let's say I go to school here. And he's like, yeah, I just moved there, do that. And I'm like, well, what if I decide to change my mind and do this? Well, I'll just do that. And I'm like, that is not a life. That's literally not a life. I need you to be your own person because then I feel responsible for you and your life decisions, and that's not mine to own.
And so maybe that's also going back to earlier, another bigger issue that people pleasing is a symptom of if you are not being your own person and walking in your own purpose. Because in relationships, that's why it's so important for two people to kind of at least understand like their personal goals and purpose, because it'll get to a point where you're going to either sacrifice the purpose or sacrifice a relationship. Because if I'm with you now and I'm like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want to do. When I get into a place where I figure out what that thing is, now, it's like, oh, shoot. Well, now this doesn't fit with me being with you.
Yeah.
So do I sacrifice that? Now I'm still following you around and have resentment for you for the rest of my life.
Exactly.
Or do we break up this relationship now, right? So the second part, though, of that, too, is if I'm not clear on, like, what am I here for? What's my purpose? What do I care about? Then what am I giving to you? Like, what am I telling you can have for the rest of your life if I'm like, I'll just be with you? You don't even know what you're getting. So that's why it's probably kind of unattractive. Like, so what are you bringing to this?
Yeah.
So it's important for sure to know yourself and kind of be in a space where you are okay with yourself, because then hopefully if you're working towards that, when you get there, things may be different. And I say that too because just like with being a people pleaser, you're doing it less because you're okay with yourself. And I don't necessarily like people pleasers around, because I know, like, you're just here. Like, you're not really serving any purpose right now. And so there's nothing to kind of really get from that presence.
Yeah. Like, if you are always saying yes and are always in agreement, like, how am I supposed to grow? Like, how are you challenging me? How are we helping each other if I don't even know what you're interested in or what you're working on? Or, Yeah, and if y'all are watching the video, my face is all kinds of messed up right now.
And when I'm around people who are like that, and I ask a lot of questions because I like to just challenge people to be clear. Not that I always am either, but if there's somebody in there, they just say a thing just to say a thing. And you can tell when people just talking just to talk. And I'll say like, oh, why do you say that? Or if I have a friend, this happened the other day, and they're like, man, I was coming back towards the house and man, you working hard. Like you worked hard all day, man, that's how I need to be. And like, what made you think that I just came from working? Like, I literally came back from my friend's house. Like, no, I'm not working. Like, why'd you say that? They're like, oh man, I just thought like, so a lot of times I think that people that say stuff, people are kind of making their own assumptions about what they think. And it's like, nah, it's like anytime I'm around somebody who is kind of trying to like put stuff on me or agree with me or whatever, like I'm going to challenge, like, what do you really think about it? Or if you're agreeing with me, why do you agree with me? So I think it's important to like, make sure you kind of pause and are slow with how you are in conversations, because if it's something you really want to grow or a good relationship with a friend or person, then you need to like be exploring yourself and they need to be okay with who you are. Otherwise, why do you want to be cool with them anyway?
Yeah, and if you're never yourself, how do you build a relationship or a friendship or anything if they don't actually know who you are, which goes back to knowing yourself, taking that pause, taking the time to like look inside and figure out who you are, what you want, what you need. I think there's an inverse relationship, like a directly inverse relationship with, and hopefully I said that right, with people pleasing and knowing yourself. Because when you really know and you're confident and comfortable in who you are, you're not doing shit to just.
You know why you're doing the things you do.
Exactly.
Another big thing that could show that you're a people pleaser is if you have a problem with conflict. So if you avoid it or kind of like just let situations slide, feel uncomfortable if somebody's mad at you or like, oh, I don't want them to be upset with me. How do you kind of fall around those types of things as far as avoiding conflict?
I like direct conversations. Like I like if there's something, I just like to address it. I don't like passive aggressive things. I don't like roundabout ways or just going over. Like if I want to talk about something, we're going to talk about it. If it's an awkward conversation, that's just going to be hella awkward. And we going to talk about it.
Do you tend to have those kind of conversations in person or how?
In person. I like to do it in person or at least on the phone. I hate having those conversations and text messages.
Are you one of those people who text like, oh, we need to talk later? 5:30.
Not like that, but I will be like, hey, do you shut up? I will be like, hey, do you have a minute? And they'll be like,
oh my God.
Yeah, because I also just don't want to call. Like, I also want to respect your time and boundaries. And if you don't have space for that, then we're not going to have the conversation right now. And that's okay, too.
That's true. I kind of used to do that, but I also kind of moved a little bit away from, like, as soon as I feel like something, saying, like, I want to talk to them about it and, like, giving it a little more time to think about it and more so giving it time for the conversation to kind of go there on its own a little bit. I've noticed that when I don't try to address something directly, because that tends to be like because I have a problem with something, so then it's kind of putting somebody on the defensive. And of course, there's ways to, maneuver it so it's not like that, right? And if you're like, hey, I just want to express something, work through this with me, that's on them, if they're that kind of person or not. But I have found that it's more effective when we're just talking about stuff and just as the opportunity kind of comes up around it, like it just kind of, I don't know, being part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it goes better when it's almost like they maybe not bring up specifically, but if an example happens in this convo now, I can say, well, you know what, you just did this and something about that, blah, 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 right? Instead of it being like last week and the week before you did this thing and let's talk about it. So I felt like that's good too. But
I think so too, as
long as you talk about it.
Yeah, you just have to talk about it and not like just let things slide or not own other people's things.
So if you're a people pleaser, or if you notice some of the things that you're doing are being there for other people while your own stuff slips and while your own to-do list piles up, I think it's important for you to take a step back and to really think about what you want or what you need, because you may be needing outside validation right now. And so now that's something to work towards as far as how to solve that and give yourself more of your own attention. So when it comes to putting yourself first and being more of a person who's trying to please yourself first before others, what are some of the things that we can think about? doing to get better at being a people pleaser?
Understanding what I need and what I want. If I don't even have a base of assessment on where I am with my things and how I'm feeling, then there's no way I could know in relation, like, what's going on. Am I people pleasing? Am I doing this? Am I running from something? Am I procrastinating? And so it really is just understanding and checking in with yourself. That's where everything starts.
Okay, I think that's good. Another one I would say is taking people off of pedestals around you, like all around you. Stop looking at people as better than you. And maybe you don't think you're thinking that, but if the way you act reflects that, then you probably do.
How do you take them off pedestals? And I'm only asking because I might have someone on a pedestal.
And I will think it through with a story because I've had somebody on a pedestal. So like, but this is like with a relationship. But I noticed once I realized I had them on a pedestal, right? It's like you're justifying things for them, like they could do no wrong, or you just want to make them happy because them being happy is like, you know, like the to go to of your world. And I think maybe it was. How did I? But they're not there anymore because.
What changed?
I think it was with me. I think maybe I started giving myself more credit around the things that I looked up to in this person. And as I focus more on those things, it matters. Not that it matters less, but it's less about trying to prove a thing and more about, well, I still am there for them in that space or helping them or working with them on certain things. But I don't need to go out of my way as much anymore. I think it really is it was just putting more importance on myself. So maybe it was more of like recognizing that in viewing them in a pedestal, like in looking up at them, I'm automatically placing myself in a lower place. And so as I kind of give myself more, so maybe it's action, in the putting yourself first, it's the actions of, like we said, at nighttime, and this is real too, like little things, like I turn your ringer off. Like if you call me, then you called me and I was asleep, and like that's that. Or if you call me and I'm in the middle of something, like I'm not answering, like I don't answer. I don't jump up to answer a FaceTime if I'm in the middle of something. Stuff like that, and just little things, and that you're focused on what you need to do, and then you'll get to them, and them understanding that. And I think that's something that, especially in relationships, that other person doesn't want to be on a pedestal either.
Yeah,
like,
they never asked to be on that pedestal.
People don't want to be put on pedestals because that's a lot of responsibility, and I don't really think it's fair for them either. So it's kind of uncomfortable. But I don't know if I really answered well how I did that, but I just took little steps. I noticed places I was overextending or doing things where it's like, what's the reason for that? And I just slowly stopped doing those things. And as I was more focused on myself and see more of my own things working for me, and also as I'm giving my praise reports to that person or talking about the things that's going on with me, I noticed how much they hit me with the good jobs and all those things. And like, they're not viewing me as less than from up high, or like, they're not trying to little kid me. What's it, son me? They're not trying to sun me or anything. And it's like, yo, we're here together. Like, see it that way. Like, it's really just me seeing it in the right way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people you might be putting on pedestals might, not be looking at it that way either. Like, I might be looking you eye in the eye, but then now the dynamic's weird because you're walking on eggshells instead of being yourself.
Mm-hmm. And things can seem a lot bigger, like them falling from that pedestal by like letting you down whenever they don't know that they're there. It's just, that could probably be an entire episode in itself.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. And I just like to ask, how that changed. So I think that is one, learning to validate yourself. So now that you know, like, where you are, you talked about a little bit, giving yourself more credit. And not that you were looking for their external validation, but you're also not selling yourself short.
Yeah, with self-validation, what does that look like?
Like celebrating, congratulating, loving on myself, like not needing that external thing. Like, it's nice, but like if I win this big project, if say this special person doesn't say congratulations, it doesn't change the fact that I won the big contract. And like, congratulating myself on the way and knowing that regardless of what happens, that, you know, I'm enough, I'm worthy, like I'm like all of these things, and not looking for anybody else to kind of fill that or affirm that for me.
Yeah. And I think it's taking care of your own needs. Again, like with relationships, like, you know, if you want flowers, like go get some flowers.
Exactly.
Like that's what I did the other day. 'Cause I was like, dang, I wish I had some flowers. But you know what's funny is that also I've learned too that it works so much better when you take care of yourself instead of letting yourself wait and be miserable for somebody else too. Because now there's this like almost like a negative energy and resentment you're putting in the mix that now kind of tampers with things, right? And it's so crazy to me, and I love how I've very recently, like in the last few months, I will think, oh man, I wanna, what was it? I actually was thinking like, man, you know, this person, it would be so nice if they got me flowers. But then when I saw them and like the guy outside the club like had flowers, and then he got me some flowers, and I thought about like, dang, like I didn't have to like, I said it like years ago before, but like I'm like I didn't have to really say it. Like it is happening. Like I just don't have to worry about it. But in the meantime, I'll get my own and I do my own thing, and it's cool. Like waiting, I'm not waiting for it.
I'm not waiting.
But because I'm not always in the constant of like, dang, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, or I wish this, or I wish that I'm not taking care of. I'm getting in a bad state of like trying to wait for that to happen instead of just taking care of it. And then while I'm taking care of it, they also see what I care about and like, and they do the same things too.
And you're also being yourself and thinking about
Yeah,
what you
like
need
you're
and
not-
like fulfilling your own needs.
Yeah,
so you're not
exactly.
putting them on anybody else.
So it's like you never have to feel like any kind of way about it. And even recently too, like when I'm thinking like, man, I kind of want to talk to them, but I don't, you know, if I feel like I'm bothering them or whatever. And so I'll do something for myself, and then, you know, and then they call. So like,
Yeah.
it just happens. It's like, we're fine, and you let it be fine instead of finding something to complain about.
I like,
Because you're waiting for them to validate what you need.
I think Will and Jada talk about it a lot, just like not waiting on each other to fill each other up. You're not coming to them empty, you're coming to them full, which is a better relationship, friendship, any type of ship in general, because you're doing what you need to do on your side there, and they're doing what they need to do, and then y'all can come together and be full instead of coming to each other empty, looking for them to do those things to make you happy.
Yep. Another way to combat people pleasing is saying no more often, and you can start with the little things. If somebody asks you, can you pick up something? Can you do something? It's okay to say no. Like if they ask you, why not say what you want to say? Don't agree to things and not do what you say you're going to do. But there's lots of little places. So maybe just thinking about what you could say no to this week on a smaller scale is a good way to just practice, like giving yourself more time.
And stop over apologizing. Like hey Lex, can you do this? No. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wish I could, but no, I can't because I'm doing this. And I would add, stop over explaining yourself.
Yeah,
like
you don't
no
have
is
to
a full
explain it.
no is a full sentence. In its entirety, no, period. It's a full sentence, or maybe even an exclamation point, but it's a full sentence, and you don't have to over-explain why you feel these things, or you don't have to over-apologize, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I was 5 minutes late, and there was traffic, and it was, and you could just be like, hey, thank you so much for being patient, like, let's get started, and keep it moving, because literally, I was late today, I was like, damn, like, I feel bad, I'm like, fuck it, like, we just gotta get started, like, me apologizing doesn't change the fact that I was late. And we just gotta go.
One thing, this is random, but one thing I've been thinking about a lot, or always I'm thinking about, is when people do hit you with that, like, oh, I'm sorry, especially with a late thing, right? Oh, I'm sorry I was late. How do you answer that if you're like, it's not okay, but it's okay, but you know what I mean?
But be on
you know how
time,
we always are like, oh, it's okay, but it's like, all right. And like, what do you say?
Well, I think if it's
I just would just not say anything. Like,
I mean,
all
you
right.
don't say anything, but if it's like a problem and it's like a team situation, like, hey, we would really appreciate it. Like, it's kind of been a thing, and we want you to respect our time, like we're respecting yours. Like, please try to get your own time. If it gets
I guess
to
it's not
that
enough
level,
to be a
get
thing
OD.
thing. It's just like, I feel like sometimes we just, like you said, you know, when you hit them with the, oh, I'm sorry, just because you feel like you should say
Bruh,
it.
and stop saying you're sorry. Like, this is just a whole other side thing. Stop saying you're sorry if you're not sorry. Like, just don't, like, think about it. And I think women over apologize a lot. And that's something we can check ourselves on. But just notice how often you say you're sorry. Like, somebody bumps into you. Oh, I'm sorry. Bitch, for what? You was minding your business standing somewhere and somebody bumped into you. Excuse me.
Yeah, true.
Like, yeah. So I think that's also
True.
one.
Another thing that you can do is give yourself more time to get things done. I'm real bad about this. Like if somebody's like, oh, can you get me this report or can we do this? God. And I'm like, yeah, I can do it by tomorrow.
I can do it in 5 minutes.
Oh my God. I'll be like, why did I even fucking say that? I need to be like 2 weeks for anything.
Bruh.
But yeah, like you're people pleasing because you're not being true to your own time and your own stuff you already had planned, things you need to get done, how much time it really will take to get a thing done. And you think that by just agreeing that that's what you're supposed to do, and now you're stressed out, staying up late or whatever it is, or not getting it done, not delivering. So giving yourself more time is a big thing I try to do more of when people are like, all right, when can you get that to me? And really not saying in 2 days or whatever.
Yeah. And I think part of that is like knowing like your goals and knowing what you have going on. So making sure that you're also like keeping that in mind whenever you are agreeing to do things for other people. So if I say I can help you with this thing, well, what are my goals for this week? And if I do this thing, am I still going to be able to get all the things done that I need to get done? And so making sure I'm not like rearranging my schedule, pushing things around, doing different things whenever I don't have to. And if I notice myself doing that, like catching myself and stopping from doing that.
People talk about toxic people a lot, and I don't know, we probably need to define what that really means. But if there are people in your life who, when you do express no, and they're used to yeses, or if you do express that you can't get to something, or you express your time or your needs, and they come at you about it, which I'm trying to think of an example. I don't think I have anybody who really does this to me or has done that to me. But then that's not like a good person to keep around, obviously.
Someone in my life, like whenever you haven't ever had boundaries with them and then you start setting up boundaries, like, so let's say you set a boundary like, hey, no, that's not okay. And then they start freaking out because they're used to being able to walk over and do that. And there's somebody in my family, but they're used to being able to do whatever and get whatever they need. And all of a sudden I'm like, nah. And then they start freaking out about it. Like, let them have their space. Love them from a distance. And whenever they're ready to respect your boundaries, then they can come back around. Right. And it just kind of is.
Right.
And I also would say, like, people who expect you to do things and get mad whenever you can't, like, also watch those people.
Yeah, put yourself first is the bottom line of this episode, I believe.
That should be the
You got to know yourself to put yourself first. But if you feel like you're not putting yourself first and you don't know where to start, then that means you probably need to get clear on your own goals and what you care about and what matters, because that should be something that's not dependent on other people. And the people who are supposed to be in your life and the people who love you, care about you, and are there will have mutual love, care, respect for you to where you don't have to go out of your way to get that from another person. So keep that in mind. Any last thoughts on people pleasing?
No, I think that's great. I'm glad we did this topic today. I'm also like, dang, that's a self-check area for me, like making mental notes.
Yeah, it feels good. I'm not gonna lie. Like when whatever it was snapped off about the people pleasing with the guy I was in a relationship with, like it felt really good to like. Then we kind of came back into my life. For like I really didn't go over again. Like that's what I was nervous about. Like, oh man, like it's easy to be like, oh, I'm good, I'm over it, and then you fall back into that. Like I really didn't, and it feels good to stick to your boundaries or stick to what you say you're gonna do. And quite frankly, they hadn't been pushed, so I'm like, shoot. That's why I said like, dang, now I gotta make sure I'm the not shit one. But yeah, like they haven't really been pushed, but at the same time, like, you know, just not going out of your way and knowing it's okay if you say no, like it's fine. Like they're okay with it. It's like, okay, well, can we do this next week then? It's like, okay, maybe that'll work, you know? So it's you kind of making it a bigger deal than it is, and you're stressing out about how somebody feels about you, when what's most important is that the people in your life are there because they like who you really are and the person that you are.
And because they're choosing to be, not because you're doing things so that they want to be in your life. Because whenever you're not able to do those things, they're going to fall off.
Yep.
So it's like being yourself, knowing yourself, loving yourself, and allowing people in your life who do the same thing.
And not taking advantage of other people who may not be there yet and who you see doing things for you. Letting them know that, hey, you don't have to do all that.
Nope. And then we have our question of the week.
That you're gonna ask.
I am.
Choose one. Or make up
Dun,
something.
dun, dun. How am I caring for my mind?
How am I caring for my mind?
Can I change the question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna change it. Where can I be better?
What? That's
Yep.
even broader.
Yep.
Where can I be better? I kind of know this. I just got to think of what it is. I can be better with not avoiding. I'm trying not to give a fluffy answer. I'm trying to give a real answer. I definitely could be better at like answering people. I don't know what I'm avoiding, but like I don't like I'll be having emails and stuff I was supposed to do, and once I just don't answer them for a while, like I just never answer them. Or like my friend made fun of me because of my text that I had the other day, and I was like, all right, I'll clear them out right now. And I'm going back, and I'm like going all the way back to like the beginning of July.
Like
and he's like, why you didn't answer that? Like your girl was like, hey girl, well, how you been? And I was like, man, it just didn't. I don't know. Like I didn't care at the time. Like it didn't matter right then. And then it's people who are like, okay, we're good for, this day, 10:30. And I'm like, what do I need to answer? And so even I showed them, I answered like, okay, thanks. And the person responds back like, okay, cool, see you then. And it's like, when does this stop?
Like,
he's like, right now is when it stops. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. So whatever. But sometimes I just, I'll like avoid the conversation or avoid whatever. So I just don't want to answer the email or look at it.
Is that a bad thing though?
Yeah, because I'm just practicing avoidance on things I just need to get done or work through. If it's like work stuff. If it's people, I don't know. Like maybe I'll get to it, but.
Yeah.
So what was the question? How can you be better?
Where can I be better?
Where can you be better?
I can be better at putting myself first. And it just kind of like, I have grown a lot and I'm giving myself flowers for that. I'm also looking for great places to buy plants. So if y'all have any recommendations in LA of nurseries or little cool shops that you love, preferably local owned or local farm or something like that, black owned, brown owned, any of those things. But I can be better at putting myself first. Like even with all this growth, I can still see some areas where I put myself on the back burner and I'm like,
What types of areas do you think?
Relationships for sure. For sure. That's the easiest. But even sometimes with my friends, like I literally just went to a thing with my friend this weekend and I didn't want to go. I was tired as fuck. But I told her I would go. I'm practicing being a person of my word. And she knew I didn't want to go. She even told me I didn't have to. And I still made myself go. And I'm like, why am I here?
Did you go and have fun there? Or did you go and was like, man, I wish I hadn't.
No, I had fun for a little bit. And then I was like, all right, I'm done. I got to go.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I think there's a balance of doing that. But
yeah, because sometimes it's like, all right, like, if you haven't been out for a while or whatever.
Yeah, suck it up.
But then, sometimes, I mean, I would imagine that most of your friends probably would have been like fine if you didn't go.
Yeah, she would have been 100% cool. But I was like, no, I want to show up for you. But I like, in showing up for her might not have been showing up for myself. So.
Okay. Well, we're going to work on that.
And
we want you to work on putting yourself first too, not being a people pleaser.
Please don't.
Hit us up if you learn anything or if you have any tips for us. Also, if you have any ideas for topics and things to think about, because we're still coming up with different things that are, relevant to us. But also, if you have a thing, like I'm sure, we might could be in the same boat with that too. So hit us up on the site, hit us up on social media at Carlie's Couch, and tag us. And if that's all we have,
that's it.
see you next time.
Bye, y'all.